Hey gang, welcome back. My name's Dan. As you can see, I'm finishing up the very last number 48, illustration number 48. I've been sitting here on my butt all day, 10 hours nonstop or more today. Finished 7 illustrations, and I feel like I've said all I can say about this project. So I don't really have anything new to say, but then again, not having anything to say has never stopped me before. So um, I'm doing a broadcast anyway. I'm doing a broadcast because I've called this series the Daily Art Adventure, and partly so I could just show whoever wants to know what is an artist's life really like. And of course, this is just one artist's life. Fun illustration there. Grandmother, little girl watching mama bird defend her chicks from a snake. All part of the story. Again, this was a fun one. One of the band. Hi, Bashir. Good to see you again. One of the bad men in the story is trying to set the school on fire, and two of the children catch him. I was pretty proud of that one. Now, the last thing I have to do with these is scan them and then tweak them all in Photoshop. As you can imagine, I reserve the right to tweak to do in Photoshop anything that I want to do. The art that I'm being paid for is the digital file that my client receives from me. So I'm down to the last one, Yahoo, and I'm done with all the drawing. Hi, Ian. Good to see you. Also, I'm down to the shading stage. As you can imagine, I've done a lot of shading today. Let me show you some of these. Again, just look at them. I mean, hours. Several of these took me a couple of hours just doing the shade, not just doing the shading, but certainly an hour and a half of nothing but drawing skinny little black lines. I talked the other day, so I won't repeat myself. I talked the other day. I said I've got an essay inside me coming out. Hello, Aristi, more Jackie, Aristi. Thank you for saying hi. Appreciate it. Thanks you guys for coming by. I said just yesterday, the day before, no, 2 days ago. Yeah, I said I've got an essay somewhere inside me that at the moment it's entitled "In Praise of Tedium," tediousness, monotony, boringness. I'm discovering in my later years that it is in fact one's capacity to endure tedium is to a large extent what sets, the old American expression is what separates the men from the boys. It's just an expression for saying, I like you guys talking to each other. That's fun. I like it. That tickles me. Part of what has prompted this revelation on my part has been over the last 6 or 7 years while I've been not doing daily daily broadcasts, but I started broadcasting about 7 years ago. I used to do, fairly carefully edited videos. Of course, the bottleneck was the editing became just insurmountable. I like you guys greeting each other. That is a lot of fun. That makes me happy. And in several of those videos, I had what I imagined to be usually young people saying, "Hello, Globson. Nice to see you again." I had several young people saying, "Oh, that's too much work. Oh, you should do that on computer. You should. Oh, that's too much work. Oh, that's too much work." That kind of talk. That's part of what got me thinking. Every time a person says that, of course, I go, ka-ching. That's money. Ka-ching. That is what's the word I'm looking for? Workplace security. That's not the word. There's an expression for, you know, employment security, because for all the people who won't do the work, it is people like me who will do the work that we're being guaranteed possibly a decent payment simply by enduring what I've endured today. Now, let me be perfectly honest, and I've told you this before, but for anyone who's new, when I'm not broadcasting, like I said, I've been sitting here for 10 hours today. It's 7 o'clock p.m. as I say this, and I've been sitting here since 9 o'clock a.m. So yeah, right at 10 hours. I listen to podcasts, and today I've listened to a ton of science and history. Today's been mostly science and history, some general inspirational stuff. So I don't just sit here in glum silence. That would drive me nuts. And of course, the internet has made it so much easier. Back in the olden days when I was doing this kind of tedious work, I had to actually drive into town and rent books on tape, which I did. Thankful for books on tape back in the day. But of course, all of that is obsolete now. And because of the internet, we can all listen to all kinds of stuff. But still, sitting here, in spite of the fact that I'm listening to fascinating stuff, if you think sitting here for 10 hours is monotonous, and thanks Ian for introducing me. If you think sitting here for 10 hours is monotonous, you're exactly correct. Do you find it difficult to ramble on your thoughts while drawing? You know what? That's a funny thing, Globson. And forgive me, I'm probably not pronouncing your name correctly. I don't know how you can correct me on video chat, but you can try if you want. No, it seems that there are times when I'm in a really intense creative or solving a difficult problem that I do have to stop talking. But for some reason, it seems that the verbal side of my brain and the artistic side of my brain are quite separate from each other, which is a good thing, because I do, as you know, if you follow me for any length of time, you'll see me painting in public, painting at events, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, and even when I'm not painting for a specific event, I will very often set up, because I paint cityscapes more than anything else, so I'll set up my easel in the middle of town and happily chat with everybody that comes by. So I do think I'm a little bit unusual in that regard. It seems to me that most artists are not like me. They do like solitude. They like quietness. They like to be left alone while they're painting. And again, I think I'm a little bit odd, happily odd. I'm not sorry. I'm very glad, because it's given me, employment security. The fact that I paint well with an audience has become a major part of my marketing. Yeah, there are moments, Ian, when I'm, very intense. As if you watch me for a while, you'll say, okay, you guys, I need to paint. I need to paint by myself for a little while. But that's the exception. The rule seems to be, no, I enjoy people's company like I'm enjoying all of yours right now. So let me tell you a little bit about what I'm doing here on this. This is my last illustration, and it's quite appropriate that this is one of the last illustrations in the book. Let me see which one it is. Oh yeah, third from last. So very, very close to the end. This is sort of like part of the happy ending. The grandmother figure, late in life, things settle down. Her old grandpa dies. That doesn't sound very happy. But he experiences a lot of wholeness and healing late in his life, so it makes his departure not a tragic thing, but a very sweet thing. And anyway, late in life, she's able to realize her lifelong dream of opening a cafe. So And this whole story, again, I didn't write the story, I'm just illustrating it, takes place in a nondescript era of history. It's obviously American history. The characters feel most like they would fit into the hills of Kentucky, and the Ian, as you can see, I've never let running out of things to say stop me. As you can see, that's the difference between you and me. You know when to quit, probably. And I don't. I just ramble on, whether anybody's listening or not. So kudos to you, man, for knowing when to quit. But of course, this is the internet, so people can hang up on me, and they do, obviously, very quickly at any given moment. But I have not having anything to say. Anyway, so the story takes place mostly and the new title is Breaking Free on Broken Wings. I may not have that right, but it's something like that. And I have all the inside black and white illustrations are finished. Or this is my last one. And I have the cover to go, which will be, I will certainly do some broadcasts of the cover. In fact, I've been wanting for several years, ever since my one video that has gone viral, which is the pen and ink cross hatching. I called it Master's Edition. And yes, I've taken some I've taken some ragging over the years for having such an arrogant title. Well, you have to remember that at the time 3 years ago that I made that video, I mean, you know, I didn't know that anybody would ever look at it. So I felt pretty free to, you know, give it an arrogant title because nobody was ever going to look at it. Well, it turns out over 2.5 million people have looked at it. But ever since then, I've been wanting to do another video, a follow-up to that one, which I think I will call Pen and Ink Cross Hatching State of the Art. I've been wanting to do that for a long time, but I haven't had a job, a commercial job that is giving me the opportunity to do pen and ink cross hatching state of the art. Let me tell you what it's going to be. It's going to be just as it says. It's going to be state of the art cross hatching. Instead of these cheat pens, I'm going to use rapidograph pens. So if you follow me, you'll see me talking a lot about these technical pens. I'll be filling them, a whole handful of them, with all different colors of ink. And when I say ink in this case, I actually don't mean ink. In most cases, it's going to be liquid acrylics, but because I'm putting it in a pen, I'm calling it ink, just so as not to, most of the time, create confusion. So the cover of this book is going to be done in colored pen and ink on Mylar. And this is a little preview for those of you who will maybe be following me next week when I start this project. I've done this somewhat, enough to know that it works. I can't wait to do another one. I'm going to do colored ink on multiple layers of Mylar so that as the under layers, translucent Mylar, so the underneath layers are fuzzier than the top ones. And I'll probably use airbrush as well. And I know I'm being arrogant again, but first of all, I don't know anybody on the planet that does what I do. And again, I'm sounding arrogant, forgive me, but it's true. I don't know anybody on the planet that does anything even close. I don't mean quality. We can argue about, I don't mean I'm the best artist. I'm just saying there's nobody that does this technique. And I don't think there's anybody that I know of that pushes pen and ink to the extent that I do. And that comes at the end, I hope not the end, but at the end of many, 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 many years of very intense pen and ink work. I've been trying to get the attention of the company that manufactures those rapidograph pens. I've been trying to get their attention for years and help them revive their product. They still sell them, but they don't advertise them very well, and I would like to help them show the world what those pens can actually do. This, by the way, this is Grandma. She's called Grandma, and this is Joy and this hero, Emmylou and Erica. So they're just. Hey, here's a good principle that I can share with you guys while I'm doing this. This reminded me of this. Do I expect? Here's a question. And just for a minute, let me give you an earthquake ride. Okay, hang on just a second. Let me bring you down real close. Get my wires untangled. Okay, wait just for a second for that to line up. Okay, so there we go. There's the four of the main characters in this story: grandmother, Joy, Emmylou, and Erica. Okay. Now the question may very well be asked: do I expect everybody to recognize those characters? The answer is absolutely not. No, I do not expect everybody. Do I expect most people? I would say in this case, I expect. Yes, Ian, you're exactly correct. In fact, I've got a video already about how about cleaning those rapidograph pens. Yes, cleaning them is, when you use acrylics, is very fussy indeed. I've done it for years, and denatured alcohol is the secret, although denatured alcohol also eats plastic. So it's a two-edged sword, if you know what I mean. But you're exactly right, Ian. Okay, so I do not expect most people to recognize, and this is going to be actually smaller in the book, right? So do I expect most people to say, hey, wait a minute, that's grandma, and that must be Joy and Erica, and that must be, the answer is no, I do not. Okay, so here's a principle. I actually learned this most emphatically in my commercial artwork in designing logos of all things. Now, I do not consider myself a professional. I shouldn't say that. I am professional. I don't consider myself a top-notch graphic designer, but I will say I'm a moderately good logo designer. If I could just limit myself to that realm of graphic design, I'm medium good. Okay, good enough to do most jobs. Here is a principle that I often find myself wanting to communicate to my client. If I'm designing a logo for a company, here's a little speech I'm going to give to the boss. And it is this. I call it the 80-20 rule. You've all heard of the 80-20 rule. This is just another variation of it. It is this. You want roughly 80% of the public to recognize, to catch, like understand, like, oh, I get it. You want about 80% of the people to go, oh, cool logo, I get it. That's a picture of blank. I'm thinking like a picture of the Rock of Gibraltar. There's some insurance company in America that their logo is a Rock of Gibraltar. Okay. If they did a good job designing their logo, they would like about 20% of the population to not get it. And this is very important because many times the boss man or the boss woman, the person who's paying me good money to design a logo, they are very anxious. Think about this. This makes perfect sense. They're very anxious if they're paying good money and this logo is going to be on their sign, their letterhead, their building. You know, it's going to be on everything, their invoice. They want everybody to, quote unquote, get it. They want everybody to understand it, right? That's understandable. You can imagine why the boss person would feel that way, right? Right. That's why I have to give them the speech and tell them that impulse of theirs, their desire for everybody to get it, is actually wrong and misguided. So this is the little speech I give them, and I'll go ahead and tell you. That sort of applies to this. Do I want everybody to recognize, oh, wait, that's these four characters? The answer is no, I do not. Why? Here's why. And, all of human endeavor, in every aspect of, almost every aspect of human interest, falls down into a bell curve, right? Here's the middle. These are people scattered on a bell curve, right? Athletic ability. So this is I'll make this the sad end of the sad or mad end of the bell curve. This is the happy end of the bell curve. How good are human beings at playing golf? Let's just take all golfers. Well, there's a whole bunch in the middle that are just average. There's a smaller, well, I don't know if this is true about golf, because I think most golfers are really here. But be that as it may, the bell curve still works. There's a very, 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 very few that are way up here. Musicians, right? Some are good, some are bad, some are in the middle. Political party, conservative, liberal. Most people are in the middle. Some are extreme this way, some are extreme that way. Okay, so just you understand the bell curve thing. When it comes to visual, you're right, Ian. It is familiar. When it comes to, I'm going to try to think of a symbol here. When it comes to visual acuity, there's a pair of glasses, and here's a pair of eyes inside the glasses. This person sees things very accurately. Little explosion of insight down here. Okay? When it comes to visual acuity, this bell curve applies. There are a whole bunch of people that are average. When they look at a sign, a cartoon, a portrait, a painting, anything, most people kind of get it. There's a few people, probably people that are more visually astute, this tends to be artsy types, who get a lot more. They understand a lot more. Like when I look at a painting, yeah, exactly, Volkswagen logo, great example of most people will get it, but there's some people that are not visually acute, and they will not recognize did I do that right? They will not recognize the Volkswagen logo. They won't recognize that that's a V and that's a W. They just won't see it. And sometimes, even if you point it out to them, they go, I don't get it. Frankly, they don't care. And that's all right. These people have other skills. When you design a logo, or in this case, when you draw, or when you do a cartoon, do you want everybody to get the joke? The answer is no, you don't. Why? Here's why. Can I explain this? This has to do with not just art, but we're talking about art. If you, let's say write a joke. Let's say draw a cartoon that has a joke in it, a funny cartoon. If you draw a cartoon so that everybody, if your goal is for everybody to get the joke, and these people are down here are very visually not astute, you have to make it really, 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 really obvious. A really obvious joke, in this case, equals dumb joke or bad joke, because it's not funny. Why? Because if you make it so that, let's say, a 5-year-old kid gets it, and we love 5-year-old children, don't get me wrong, but if you make it so that somebody with that level of visual astuteness gets it, what are you doing to all these people up here? They are falling asleep or crying out of boredom. Okay? So that's the way you design a logo. You want to intentionally leave, I don't know what the number is, but 15, 20, 25% of the population, 30 maybe, 35, I don't know what the number is, but you intentionally want to leave a certain percent of the population clueless. And frankly, many times, the man or woman who is a boss, an executive, CEO of a company is in fact one of these. That's why he's the CEO, because he's not good at this stuff, but he's really good at crunching numbers and a whole bunch of other skills that have made him the boss. So many, I don't tell the boss this, but many, many, many times it is the boss that is blind as the proverbial bat because they can't see things. So I have to explain to that person that in order to entertain or engage people who are visually astute, they need to lose the people who are not. And some bosses go for that, some don't. So there you go. That's an important principle. I call it the 80-20 rule. There's probably a better name for it than that. And yeah, Ian, the Volkswagen logo is a great example. Years ago, there was one of my favorite logos of all time, since I'm on the subject, was for an airline here in the United States called Northwest Airlines, NW, Northwest Airlines. And they had a brilliant logo. Now they've since, I can't remember if they've gone out of business or if they just changed their logo, but in any case, the logo is no longer in business. It's no longer around, which is unfortunate because it was a brilliant logo. Let me see, now that I said, can I draw it? I almost can. After that introduction, I ought to be able to. I can almost do it. You can Google it. I'm not getting it right. Let me see. Somehow it was a picture of a compass pointing to the northwest, and the letter N was hidden, or the letter W. In fact, I'm going to look it up right now. Hang on. Well, here, I'll just turn you around so you can watch my computer with me. Let's see if we can find it. Because it's a classic example of a fantastic logo that probably left a lot of people in the dark. That is, they just didn't get it. Old Northwest Airlines logo. Yes, okay, good. I was forgetting it. There it is. I was forgetting much of it. Okay, let's. I'm gonna copy image. I'm gonna get this real clean for you, so you can get the full impact. Okay, it doesn't need to be that big. There. Brilliant logo. Yeah, I did a terrible job of drawing it, but that's a Northwest Airlines. And I swear, well, because I know, because I talk to people. I said, do you know what that is? They go, no. And I know I don't have to point it out to you people. You're all very visually sharp. Let me lower you down here so you can see a little bit better. I know I'm bouncing you all over. Sorry about that. But this is, if nothing else, just get a kick out of this logo. It's a compass pointing to the northwest. Got it? And here's an N, and here's a W. Northwest, pointing to the northwest. Brilliant, 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 brilliant. And again, I promise, what percent of the population never saw that? That was on the wing, the tail wing of every Northwest Airlines plane, and I would guess that roughly 25% of the population never figured out what that was, unless somebody explained it to them. And I know to some degree that's true because I actually pointed it out to some people back in the day when that logo, I was thrilled with that logo. It was so brilliant. And I pointed it out to people, and several people that I pointed it out to said, no, I didn't see, oh, that's cool. No, I didn't see that. That was one reaction. Okay. And then another reaction was, no, I didn't see it. And I don't care. The generic, maybe. I think the simplicity of it, Ian, in my opinion, but it makes it brilliant. The simplicity of it, the cleanness of that design. Anyway, so I want the same thing here. I don't want everybody to recognize these four characters. They'll just look at it and say, oh yeah, there's a picture of the house. Yep, I've got the name of the house right here. So everybody, they can figure out what it is because they can read the name. And why do I want to lose 20% of the population? Because if I make this so obvious that 99% of the population gets it, then I'm putting all the visually astute people like myself and you to sleep. Does that make sense? So that's just a tip for, and if you're ever doing commercial work for people, yes, by the way, yes, I have explained this to my client because there have been several of, as you can imagine, as you can imagine, in 48 illustrations, there have been several times that I've included things that were just a little too subtle for most people, and I've explained this principle. And my client is a very wise man, a very intelligent man, and very amenable to my counsel in that regard. So we've got a very, very happy relationship. Was that Bashir? Yes, I do use a dip pen, and I may in fact use a dip pen on the cover. Remains to be seen, but no, I tend to use rapidograph pens more because of the reservoir. You can fill it with ink, or paint in this case, and paint away without so many interruptions. I'm assuming that some of you at least have seen my pen and ink video called Vintage Pen and Ink. If not, if you want to look it up, you just, Dan Nelson, Vintage Pen and Ink. You will find me using a dip pen quite a bit in that particular video. Okay, I think I'm going to let you go here. Speaking of letting you go, hey, by the way, here's another style of cross-hatching. And as someone pointed out the other day, well, if you don't do crosses, is it really just called hatching? And yes, I think technically it would be just called hatching instead of cross-hatching. Most of the time I'm doing this kind of motion, right? But there are times when I can't quite make a long enough line using that motion. Here, I don't want there to be an interruption in this shaded area. So this is just another stroke. A little bit slower, a little more methodical. And yes, I think part of the skill, if you will, that I bring to the table here, I don't want to say this because I'm going to screw up as soon as I say it. Part of the skill that I bring to the world of cross-hatching, is this ability to draw fairly straight and consistently spaced lines. And the question is, how do you get to do that? And the answer is, of course, practice. My wife has said to me for decades, she said, if we just had a penny for every line you've drawn. Yeah, I don't know how much. I'm sure it's in the millions. I started cross-hatching when I was 10 years old, so that's 54 years ago. I clearly remember in 5th grade, maybe under the influence of Mad Magazine, discovering the magic of pen and ink cross-hatching and started practicing it at that time. That was 1965. There. That's kind of pretty, huh? Well, thank you much for your company. It's been fun. Thank you for your comments. Feel free, if you're watching in after the fact, not watching live, please feel free to leave a comment. I will answer all of them that I can. I'm going to finish this up without your company, and then I begin the process of scanning all these illustrations and tweaking them in Photoshop and sending them to Dropbox for my client. That's all part of the business. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye. Tomorrow, by the way, probably won't broadcast. Friday, tomorrow, my wife and I are driving to Nashville, Tennessee, and Friday, I hope to broadcast. I'm painting at Belmead Country Club. I think it's Belmead Country Club at a big fancy event. So I'll be wearing a tux and doing a large painting. Hope you can join me then.